Just a quick thought from Luke chapter 8 today. I was reading about Jesus and some of his miracles of healing and some of the different crises and emergencies that people had that they brought to Jesus. And it left me with a little bit of perspective. So I'm going to be starting off Luke chapter 8, verse 40. As Jesus returned, the people welcomed him, for they were waiting for him. And there came a man named Jairus, and he was an official of the synagogue. And he fell at Jesus' feet and began to implore him to come to his house. For he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, and she was dying. But as he went, the crowds were pressing against him. This man had an emergency. His daughter was dying. And I believe he came to Jesus because he had heard of Jesus. Obviously, he knew something of Jesus. He knew that Jesus was healing people, that Jesus had power, that Jesus was a worker of miracles, and he was in need of one. He had an emergency. His daughter was dying. There's a lot of emergencies today. A lot of things going on, a lot of uncertainty. Fires are advancing towards Malala. Fires are advancing towards Estacada. There's some good news today. Fires seem to be slowing down. Seems like several different crews, both official and unofficial, are working those fires, and I'm really encouraged by the news that we're getting about them. But still, there is an active emergency going on. And here's this man. He comes to Jesus with a purpose. He comes to Jesus because he's heard that Jesus is a worker of miracles, and he needs one. So first word of admonition is go to Jesus. You know Jesus is a master healer. You know Jesus is a master of miracles. You know Jesus does many powerful things. We read about those in Scripture multiple times. Go to Jesus. He is able to handle your emergency today. Picking up again in verse 43, this is while Jesus is going to be with Jairus and to help him with his daughter. And a woman who had a hemorrhage for 12 years and could not be healed by anyone came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. And immediately her hemorrhage stopped. So this woman also, a little bit different circumstances. She had a crisis. She had an illness that was incurable for many years. And she also heard about Jesus and that he was a master healer, a master of miracles. And she went to Jesus because she needed help. There's a lot of crises going on today too. There's above and beyond the fire situation that is threatening a lot of our town and a lot of our landscape. There's COVID that is an ongoing crisis. There's the financial burden that has placed on a lot of people, losing businesses, having to shut down, having to put in new restrictions and new this and new that, all expensive changes and transitions, and it is a crisis. But here again, this woman, she had a crisis. She heard that Jesus was a master of miracles, and she came looking for a miracle. And she touched the hem of Jesus' garment because she believed that Jesus was capable of helping her. Immediately, her hemorrhage stopped after she touched his cloak, and Jesus said, "Who is the one who touched me?" Now, Jesus stops. Can you imagine for a moment Jairus? He's got an emergency. His daughter is dying, and he is fighting against time to get his daughter some help. And he's trying to get Jesus to follow him and help save his daughter's life. And Jesus is being pressed by the crowds. Traffic jam. Gridlock. We've been seeing a lot of that as people try to get out of these burning areas. It's scary to be caught in a traffic jam when you have a time urgent emergency on your hands. Can you imagine for a moment what Jairus is going through as he's trying to get Jesus to get to his daughter in time? Jesus stops because he feels that the woman touched him. He feels that power left him, is what it says. And while they were all denying it, Peter said, "Master, the people are crowding in and pressing on you. Everybody's touching you. What are you talking about?" Jesus said, "Someone did touch me, for I was aware the power had gone out of me." When the woman saw that she had not escaped notice, she came trembling, fell down before him, and declared in the presence of all the people the reason why she had touched him, and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." She believed, she had faith, she came to Jesus. She acted on that faith. Many people may have believed who Jesus was, but they weren't necessarily healed just because they believed that Jesus was a good guy. This woman was healed because she had faith and she acted on that faith and came and sought healing. "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." Now, so this concludes the little interlude in Jesus' trip from trip going towards Jairus' house. And he's concluded his interaction with this woman, but now we circle back around to Jairus. While he was still speaking, someone came from the house of the synagogue official saying, "Your daughter has died." Basically, it's too late. The emergency is over. Do not trouble the teacher anymore. But when Jesus heard this, he answered, "Do not be afraid, only believe, and she will be made well." So, as you bring your emergency to Jesus, the temptation is to be afraid. The temptation is to be panicked. The temptation is to be in a hurry. Temptation is to believe that Jesus isn't taking it as seriously as he needs to be, or as seriously as you are. But we can see as this passage progresses that Jesus does take this seriously, that he is invested in this man and his daughter's life. So let's read on. Your daughter has died. Do not trouble the teacher anymore. But when Jesus heard this, he answered him, "Do not be afraid, only believe, and she will be made well." How is this possible? In our culture and society, death is permanent. When something dies, it's done. It's not like Princess Bride where he's just mostly dead. Death is final. It's the end. And that's what we understand as a culture and society, but that's not how God views death. And so he says, don't be afraid, only believe, and she will be made well. When he came to the house, he did not allow anyone to enter with him except Peter and John and James and the girl's father and mother. Now they were all weeping and lamenting for her with good cause. The girl is dead. But he said, "Stop weeping, for she has not died, but is asleep." And they began laughing at him, knowing that she had died. He, however, took her by the hand and called, saying, "Child, arise." And her spirit returned, and she got up immediately. And he gave orders for something to be given to her to eat. Her parents were amazed, but he instructed them to tell no one what had happened. A little bit of perspective. Emergencies and crisis. Jesus is involved in both. He is willing and able to take those on. And, something that my wife keeps on telling me and we keep on discussing is the fact that we are worried about losing our home in Malala means it hasn't happened yet. Today's troubles, today's decisions are difficult enough. Focus on making the right decision today. And that right decision for today is to take it to Jesus. Sometimes that is what you can do. If you've crossed all your other T's and dotted all of your other I's, when you've done everything that you can do, Don't continue to be afraid. Take it to Jesus. Leave it at the Master's feet. Leave it at the Master Miracles doorstep and let him work the miracles. That is what he is good at. He is a master in making beauty from ashes. And we might be watching him do that as we speak. So give it to him. Let's praise Jesus and continue to trust Jesus to take care of us. Love you all. Bless you.